Yeah, I can hear a lot of wind noise on your mic. Is there a way to protect your mic from picking up the noise?
I'll do that too.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, even if you have to cup it with your hand or something, but
Uh, just for a test now, I'm just cupping it. Can you hear me without the wind?
way better. Way better.
Sweet. All right.
Okay.
Good to see you, brother.
A lot of okay. Well, I think are we live here? Jesse, I think we're live. Okay. Okay. Welcome to 1000 Ways, normally called 1000 Ways to be a Champion for Children. Today, it's going to be a little bit different. Today, it's going to be 1000 Ways to be a Champion for Peace. And Michael Petrakis, 30 seconds. Jesse, I started, buddy. Sorry. Michael Petrakis is had a little piece of thing down at Galt Gardens just yesterday, right? Michael, tell us about that. How did that go?
Hello, brother. Thank you for having me, and thank you for facilitating this experience. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. A huge rite of passage for me, and something that I wanted to ensure happened no matter what, even if it was so last minute. And yeah, so it was for the International Day of Peace, and it was kind of a launch pad for my candidacy for City Council of Lethbridge. And it was a beautiful synchronicity that it was also the beginning of a reconciliation week. So our brothers at Sage Clan of the Blackfoot tribe were had set up there with teepee and everything, supporting the community, and I ended up having some really amazing conversations. Exhausted my mouth, actually. I haven't spoken that much with humans in a long time. I've been isolated in many ways, like many others. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Thank you for asking, brother.
Well, I don't know if you remember this. We were having a chat. We were having a little online thing that we started in like 3 minutes, and then we just said, "Oh, let's just stream this." So we started streaming it, and then all of a sudden you were gone. So I just said, "Hey, go down and visit Michael at Galt Gardens because he's got this thing happening, right?" So,
wonderful.
Yeah. So here's the take home that I had yesterday when we were talking. You were basically saying peace is imminent. Peace is coming. So all we have to really do is imagine what peace is going to look like tomorrow when it's here, or the next day when it's here, whenever it's here. Is that kind of the way that I heard you say that, Michael?
That sounds pretty good. Peace is actually a frequency that we can choose, and then it translates in everything that we think, say, feel, and do. So to bring about peace is like full on to be the change you wish to see. So we act as if we are peace, and we bring peace then with every single thing that we do in all of our relations. So we become living embodiments of the future now.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So Michael, how do how does someone choose peace if, let's say, they're in a relationship and there have violence being used against them? Like that makes the whole different cat, right?
Mm-hmm. So the challenge is, before I answer, I just want to share my view. If you can see that, there's a perfect sunset happening right now.
That is beautiful.
So finding ourselves in challenging situations is like what it's all about, right? We are continuously sharpening our sword of discernment and of self-actualizing, being the best version of ourselves that we can be. So one of the first things that we can all do is reclaim our personal power reclaim our personal responsibility, our personal sovereignty, and say, I can choose how I'm going to respond to this situation because I know I have options. I know I have options, and I know some of my options are reactive and of fear, and I know I can choose something a little bit more conscious. So it's like it's creating a pause, a slight pause between our thoughts and our reactions, as if we're assessing primarily our approach to the moment, our approach to every circumstance. That slight pause of assessing one's approach, how am I approaching this? Through fear or through love? That is like putting a crystal between us and everything else, and everything we see is through the crystal. And the crystal is love. So it's like a prism of perception, as we were talking about before. So it's like choosing gratitude, choosing power. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. The other thing that I was how we kind of align, I think, and by the way, I was really quite shocked with our conversation we had yesterday because it was like it was serendipity and synchronicity just kind of coming and giving us a little push to get together and have a chat. It was beautiful.
Oh, brother, so beautiful.
Yeah.
The synergy of personalities and timing and avatars. It's a beautiful experience to have, and then you feel that inspiration, and you feel yourself expanding, right?
Yeah. So what we talked about yesterday is I was talking about preventing violence, but really thinking about it, what is peace? Peace is where you're not experiencing violence. You're not using violence. You're not experiencing violence. That's really, in essence, what peace is. Would you agree?
Yes. Experience, and the most violent, most abusive relationship one can be in is the relationship with themselves. So how are we being violent with ourselves? How are we talking? How are we treating ourselves as if we would never hope for an enemy to treat another?
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, very well said. We have to treat ourselves very well. We have to encourage ourselves. We have to be on where we're trying to be a better version of ourselves tomorrow than we are today. And that's not saying there's anything wrong with us today. We're our perfectly imperfect self today, but we can be a better version of that perfectly imperfect self tomorrow. So let's,
if I could just add one thing to that.
Please do.
Just the idea that how much we can accomplish without even moving out of our rooms. Because if we want to bring peace to ourselves, to our lives, then the most profound influence of our peace in our lives is the relationship that we have, that we experience to the highest degree and the most often. So if our relationship that we're having with ourselves is like 99% of our life experience, if we can just bring a little bit more peace to that, we've already influenced 99% of our life experience.
Yeah. Well said. And how does that impact? How does that manifest that we have a better relationship with ourselves, right? We're more self-aware, more self-accepting, more self-compassion. How do we present in the world then if that's our relationship with ourselves, right?
Right. But if we're 90% more at peace, we're going to be 90% more peaceful with all of our other relationships.
Exactly. So we have way more capacity to have compassion, to have caring, to have, because we have that in ourselves, right? So that then we have it to share with others, right?
Because there's like a million ways that we can bring about or inspire a culture of peace.
Yes.
But if we're more peaceful, we're going to, every single way we are is inspiring a culture of peace. Everything will do, every idea will be, will have the scent of peace.
Yes. Yeah. I see what you're saying. By the way, I don't know if you caught this. You just said a million ways. The show is 1,000 ways. You're jumping bumping it 1,000. I don't know if you know this, but here's where this quote came from. It's a Rumi quote, eh? There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the earth is where the quote came from that I robbed to call this show. So, yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah,
For emphasis.
it's a Rumi quote. There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the earth. And so then I just said there's 1,000 ways to
So
be a
beautiful.
champion for children. Yeah, yeah.
So beautiful. So I'd love to hear, however you want to take this conversation, feel free.
Okay, well, no, this is the conversation. It's all obviously you can see
All right.
it's choreographed to the last second, that it's all organized and planned. You can see that it's but hey, one thing I was going to tell you, when you talk about your relationship with yourself, I think sometimes people might be very uncomfortable saying that they love themselves. They should. That should be a totally fine thing. Makes sense that they would, right? But people sometimes might feel uncomfortable with that. So I have a bridge. And here's what I suggest to people that they start with. Start with that I am my favorite human being. I am my favorite human being. There's no judgment in there. You're not saying you're worthy of that. You're just saying, I'm just going to decide I'm my favorite human being. What do you think of that idea?
I love that idea. I love that idea. Yeah. I'm all about the I ams.
Yes, yes. Okay, so Michael, we want to have peace, which means we want to have violence stop, right? Because that's in contrast to peace. And so I was telling you about this whole navigator training where we can have people from civilians just carrying community members who take a course so that they understand what resources are available and have a comfort level with approaching somebody that they might see as having a challenge and offering to be of assistance to them. I think that's a very elegant system. I think that's got to work, don't you?
100%. That's absolutely brilliant. Just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like the first thing that came to mind is tripling the budget of the police, because that is the transition of the police as world peace dawns upon humanity. So, right, they're already transitioning to peace officers, but with the same facilitation process of training, we would be transitioning their roles and expanding their roles initially to having that level of expertise and mandates. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what I would even describe as the mandates for the official World Peace Council at City Hall.
Hey, speaking of that, with your running for council, so is one of your campaign promises peace in our community? And like, what's it going to take you, 2 or 3 months, or do you think it's going to need the whole term?
In love, in God, everything is possible, and the grace works in miraculous ways. What I see as a catalyst is local unity equals world peace.
Local unity.
In other words, when one local community can unite unanimously around a single agreement, that will reverberate into infinite ways. And that means that the first agreement can literally be to unite around the exploration of the second agreement.
Yes. Yes. And the second agreement would be?
Doesn't even matter. The first one's good enough.
The first one, yeah, I'm with you. But the second one you'd think would be, we want to end violence. We want to provide more support for people who need it. We want to help protect and prevent violence from happening to kids, right? Instead of dealing with the after effects, let's prevent that from happening. How do we make that happen, right? That we're united, that's what we want to do. And I still think it's real important too, as well, for adult survivors of childhood trauma, that they get support and encouragement to address that. Because far too many times, we started this by saying about the relationship with yourself, right? And if you have a relationship with yourself where you were abused as a little person and you believe you are less than, you're worthless, there's something wrong with you because of what happened to you as a child, then then that's a fundamental problem in terms of you having your best version of yourself and you know, having the best life. So encouraging people to listen, there's no shame, no blame. If you were as a child that you were traumatized by a caregiver who was not good at that, not good at that role, or was messed up with drugs or alcohol, or just was in a really bad place, depression wise, whatever it was, not you, that caregiver, that adult in your life, that acquaintance, that uncle, that whatever it was, their problem, not yours. That in no way reduced your value, reduced you, anything about your value as a human being.
Beautifully said, brother. So crucial.
Yeah, I think so, because that if you internalize those messages and you keep that forever, that there's something wrong with you, well, you know, how can you really truly appreciate, value yourself, and thus have the capacity to be of value to other people, right? The capacity to say, hey, I have compassion for you. I have compassion for myself. I have compassion for you as well, right? I've made mistakes.
Yeah.
You have as well. How can we move forward, right? So,
you know, what I just saw as you were saying that was when we are reminded of the tools we have to identify with another aspect of ourselves, like I am not my past.
Right. Yes.
That moment becomes like a singularity, and your entire past is now translated as a teaching that you are now an ambassador of. So you suddenly become adequately distanced from your past, so that you can see it for what it is from the most empowering perspective. And then you're like, okay, if I'm not my past, I've grown from that because I am still here. I am still alive. Mm-hmm. So look at where I am now. That it's the final frontier of just getting out of the rut, which is like a rut of perception.
Right.
So any reference point and reminder of that is like it's like a life of meditation within a single shift of perception.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that is the fundamental shift of perception that all meditation is about to disassociate from this identity that we've become so attached to, associated with, identified with.
Yeah. And we're taught at perhaps a very at an age when you were not, you know, fully functioning as a human being, that you can make a reasonable choice about it. You were taught that you were less than somehow, or that you were deficient in some regard, and you just believe that, right? And that's not the case. That, or it might be the case you have a challenge in some area, but then there's also other strengths you have that let's make those right. So yeah,
that's what I saw also as you were speaking was the trauma puts us into fear and closes us. And fear is translated as poverty consciousness. So the opposite of poverty consciousness is love consciousness, unity consciousness, Christ consciousness, abundance consciousness. And the moment you feel in fear, you feel at a loss of options, loss of choices. And abundance gives you like infinite choices, infinite abundance perspectives. So the irony is that it's not just the people that are in poverty that are experiencing poverty consciousness, because we are divine, and most people don't realize that we are actually multidimensional divine beings. So everybody is actually in extremely traumatized poverty consciousness, and that is why most people think world peace is a reach when it's actually not. It's in the palm of our hands. Like, it is literally a single collective choice away, a choice that everybody would obviously make if they were presented with it.
Sure, you bet. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So poverty consciousness is like, yeah.
There's nobody who would choose to be in in a violent situation, choose to be in a uncaring situation, choose to just be not in a relationship with somebody else where they are assisting them, and in a reciprocal way, kind of a thing. They're getting support from their community, right? We're meant to be connected, right? And our disconnection often happens because of, oh, fucking Michael, look at his long hair. I can't connect with that guy, right? Or look at the color of this person.
We've lost our relatability.
Yeah. It's crazy, because what we have in common as these spiritual beings that are going through this human experience, we're all doing the same thing. And how about if we help each other on this journey, right, to make this human experience as good as it possibly can be, and as satisfying and productive and lovely as it possibly can be.
Yeah. I don't know how to continue. Just enjoy the smiles for now. Thank you for being the change, brother.
Well, you know what? I think, it's when you and I were talking, I said, oh man, Michael and I, we're on the same page here. We're connected here. This is great. But
it's another level.
We're not the only ones. There's other people that want the same thing, right? We invite, we welcome, we encourage, get the correction, get the value.
Status update.
Update. There you go.
So our frequencies are a magnetic invitation. Our frequency is a magnetic invitation. So the being that we choose to be is an invitation for others to be. And so then we're invited into our sovereignty, because everyone's inviting everyone else to be in the frequency that they are. And they're asking, can you offer me an alternative, a persuasive alternative? But your persuasive alternative must be something that is a sovereign choice, that does not reflect or depend on anyone else's offering, because we're always being offered battles, but we don't have to accept all the battles that we're invited to.
True. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And if we can make the choices that are going to be good for our well-being, it's going to be good for our capacity to be of value to other people, right? That's the reality of it. We do have to kind of look after ourselves, make sure that we have enough that we can give. Hey, what was the thing you did the other day with Maslow's hierarchy? And you were talking the fountain out the top.
The overflow.
Yeah. Do that one. Tell me that one again. That was good.
do that one again. that was the flowering of consciousness is like a blooming out of the top of the pyramid, or the eye of the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And we can fulfill that by recognizing how divine we are, because then we begin to realize how much of an example of a teaching. Everyone is standing on everyone else's shoulders, whether they know it or not. And so we're standing on everyone else's shoulders if we can accept that honor, that privilege, really. So we can learn off of everyone's examples in so many ways. And so we can actualize, you could say independently, but it's not. Nothing is actually independent, because our perceptions are constantly being influenced. Everyone's personalities, biomimicry, and mirror neurons, as we were saying, we're constantly adapting to the self that we prefer to identify with, if we're open to shifting our identity in flow with what we're seeing and perceiving. So we see character traits expressed in people around us. We're constantly adopting, morphing. We are literally morphing, but we don't even realize it because it's happening so subtly. But it's called the way. I don't know if I lost you there.
It's called, what was it you said?
I got a phone call and it cut my audio.
Oh, okay.
Are you still there? I lost your video and I got a picture.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a wimpy connection here, so I just stopped my video. You were saying it's called, and then you went blank. What were you saying?
Holy shit. It's called Holy Shit, We Did It. We did it. It's called, I said it's called The Awakening.
The Awakening. All right.
The Awakening.
Yes. Okay, cool. Cool.
In other words, we're like, we're check out the sunset.
That's beautiful. Are you over the shooting range? Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Holy.
That's very nice.
So the it's like if we were inside of a dream right now, if we were to accept the possibility that we are inside of a dream right now, how open would we be to perceiving a different aspect of ourselves, and that aspect was real? Like, we could really just be powerful, we could really just be confident, we could really just let go of our fears because we know it's a dream.
Right. Sure. So it's a choice we could easily make. Why wouldn't we do that? Right.
Right. So the biggest characteristic of disempowerment, the first lie, the first lie that we believed so that we would fall into spiritual amnesia is that we are not divine.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can reverse or invert or flip Maslow's hierarchy of needs so that we are at the peak right now by accepting our divinity.
Sure. Okay.
That we're inside of a dream and we are actually infinite. So the question that this statement is born from is, what is the single greatest realization that everyone could have access to right now to access infinite or cosmic consciousness and maximum level of personal power? Like a hack, a consciousness hack.
Sure. Okay.
What would that realization be? I guess the idea is that yes, we are divine, but what are the characteristics of that? So what would you say the characteristics of one being divine are?
That we are connected to all and that we can have a positive influence on all.
Well said. Right. Hit the nail right on the head as far as my heart feels. And you said it, not just connected, but influential, right? In
Right.
other words, we can have impact. We are not a lost cause. Far from. We can influence our current state of perception and our reality, our circumstantial reality, to the degree that is necessary for us to experience peace. As if the solution to everyone's situation is not dependent of others, although others are infinitely capable of supporting each other, that somehow there exists something in every single person's individual reality that allows them to access like an exit strategy. It's like an ejection button. There's an ejection button in everyone's dream.
And the ejection button is how they get to be a part of divinity, to be part of the one, the source. Is that what you're saying?
The ejection button of accepting that things are not as they seem, and I might just be perceiving from a state of consciousness that doesn't realize I'm inside of a dream.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because in all states of the quote, I'm gonna just freeze for a second. No, I just wanted to take a picture. I just wanted to say in the sense that from the quote I shared yesterday, a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, it goes, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." So the greatest technological revelation is that we are the most advanced technology that we could fathom, because it is the technology that all other perceptions can be fathomed. So the technology that we are is so advanced that it can create and project a holographic reality that is akin to a dream. So the spiritual revelation is that we are actually so divine that we could create a reality that we forget that. And we could pop out of it, we could snap out of it in an instant. How long does it take to become enlightened?
Right now. It's a perception, it's a choice. That's what you're saying, right?
So the declaration, the proposal, the challenge for the scientific community is this: I have proof that we are all actually already enlightened.
All right. And are you, go ahead.
And we just didn't realize it.
Just didn't realize it.
And that's why they call it self-realization.
Mm-hmm. That once we do, then we have it. Once we realize it.
There we are.
Yes, yes. Hey, yesterday when we were chatting, there was a quote you had about, and I can't remember if it was yours or somebody else's, but it was about being open to trying new things, but because, do you remember which one I'm talking about?
The quote to being open to trying new things.
Yeah, or
could say another word about that, and it was part.
It was sort of where I respect anybody's right to say no, this is not for me, but would encourage them to try it. Otherwise, how can they say no? It's not for me.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'm just taking a picture here, so my camera is probably frozen.
Yeah.
But the idea was part of the 5 phases of truth.
Right. 5 phases of truth. Go through that.
Nice. I don't think there's that this can be accentuated too often. I'm coming back here just now. I had to take a picture of this.
All right. There, you're back. Okay.
I feel like I'm being narcissistic and arrogant just to have the camera on my picture as opposed to
cover your mic again. Protect your mic a little bit. We're getting a whole bunch of wind noise.
Thank you.
Okay, and you said you felt narcissistic of looking at yourself instead of the beautiful outdoors that is around us?
Of putting the camera on me as opposed to the sunset.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible sunset, no question. Yeah.
So just to make sure we're bouncing off of the idea that you presented regarding adaptability.
Yes.
So let me make the connection to our previous conversation as well, where when we're disempowered, when we're in our trauma state, we don't feel like we have very many options. And not only that, but we feel like there's no way we could. Not that we don't see options, but we've become hopeless.
Right. Okay. Hopeless
and, so
helpless. There's helpless
because of hopeless. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So because we know this, we close ourselves off completely to the possibility. So we close ourselves off to possibility, and that's where it gets really dark. So the first phase of opening to the possibility is actually the most catalytic, because it goes from 0 to 1, impossible to possible. It is like the greatest distance that one can travel in the shortest amount of time. So to open to the possibility is actually to begin perceiving possibility. And because most people are so closed off to possibilities of vast degrees, which is really the hopeless part. It's easy to imagine that, yeah, sure, someone will give me $5 or someone might say something nice to me tomorrow, you know. But the vast one is like, that's what we're talking about here, true possibility. So when presented with opportunities, we tend to be closed off because our fear defense mechanisms can sense if they're really good possibilities. We're scared of really good news. We almost reject it because we're in our trauma states. And most people are traumatized, we don't even realize it yet, though, because that's what amnesia is. That's what amnesia translates to. This society and the civilization that we live in is a production of a traumatized civilization, a traumatized society. That's how contrasting the degrees are between now and world peace. But the moment we realize that, world peace is as accessible as possibility. So when presented with challenging ideas, cognitive dissonance sets in, and you begin to notice or where you are in the 5 phases of truth. It's getting really windy. Is it okay here still for you?
Well, it is getting kind of choppy there, Michael. We might need to kind of wrap her up here.
I can move a little bit too. 1 second, please.
All right.
Because this is such a great conversation, and I so appreciate the opportunity to speak about these things. Sorry about the noise.
Okay, well, you're outdoors. That happens.
Sorry, not sorry. Let me just switch my...
All right.
All right, we're moving now.
All right.
So the first, once we know, it's like we're mapping. Check this out. This is great. I so appreciate this. So much gratitude, brother. Because there's a million ways to translate, like the Rumi quote, right? And we're literally baffled kings and queens composing hallelujah, trying to express what their heart has been communicating for so long. So the transition, the map between amnesia and awakening, if we could define it in phases, so we could see it like a map, we could then, like the yin yang, you see the dark and the light for what they are, one cycle. So awakening and amnesia, forgetting, and trauma and divinity can be mapped. And once we see the map, the word duality transcends duality because it's communicating the two. So the map is like being inside of a maze, 2D, Pac-Man, and then being the player and sees above the maze. And what we realize is that we're not in a maze, we're in a labyrinth, a spiral, and there's only one way to go. So we can never be lost. We've never been lost. You can't get lost. It's a spiral, but it's made out of holographic mirrors. So when we see the 5 phases of truth for what they are, we can identify where we're at in them, and we're like, oh, I'm not stuck. I'm just in phase 1, you know? So the 5 phases of truth are, the first phase is that the truth will be ignored. Most people come upon the truth and kick it by the wayside and keep walking. Everyone is called, but not everyone answers the call. But we're always being called into higher ways.
Oh, you muted, man.
I just got another call. My mic cut out.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
here.
Okay.
So the second phase is that the truth will be ridiculed. Very similar to the phases, the 5 stages of grief, of dealing with grief. So the truth will be ridiculed, and that's like a defense mechanism, so that's not to face the possibility.
Right. Okay.
And this is very, very important when we're looking at scientific revelations, breakthroughs. Anything new to the academic field is always faced with contempt.
Yeah, sure.
So the third phase of truth is that the truth will be violently opposed. And this can be in conversation or just in your body. You'll feel like total resistance. That's actually what a lot of people feel when you present them another alternative to their trauma.
Right.
They'll just close it off completely. They'll go straight to phase 3.
Yeah.
So the fourth phase is the emancipation of resistance, internal resistance. And that is that the truth will be objectively peer-reviewed. In other words, considered.
Considered, yes. Peer-reviewed by yourself.
Pardon me?
Peer-reviewed by yourself, basically, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly. You're going to accept the possibility that you could consider the possibility.
Yes.
And so in that moment, we go from closed to open.
Yeah.
That's basically open sesame, because closing and opening is the greatest distance in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Because that's what's opening is our heart and our mind.
Right. And that's the last stage of truth, is the acceptance of it.
That's the fourth phase of truth.
Fourth.
And the fifth phase, yes, is that the truth will be recognized as self-evident. Yeah.
Right. And once you see it, it's, oh, of course, that's how it's always been. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Just like human beings, we know that every person of every different color, every gender, every sexual orientation is a human being with all the same value. That's self-evident. But obviously that wasn't the case 400 years ago and 100 years ago. And yeah, so anyways, cool.
Well, yeah. So one truth that could be illuminated as self-evident, which is actually internally recognized as self-evident to one degree, but externally, we don't act like it, which is that our universal commonalities are much more significant than our differences. But like how that translates in how we treat each other. You know, anything that we could possibly find controversial or conflicting is so secondary to how precious every single life is. And how everyone is never, don't judge someone until you've walked in their moccasins. So that is the rule of thumb of how we are to approach every interaction. We have no idea what people are going through. You know, no idea.
Right.
No clue.
Yeah.
And yet, that's a good enough clue. That's the only clue we need, that we have no idea. Right.
So if we could just be there in a non-judgmental way, then basically just kind of meet them where they are to offer whatever value, whatever assistance we can do for them to move on with their journey, right?
Well said. I love it, brother. What I in every interaction, the more that we can be present, the more that we can remove our own issues from the situation,
Yes.
so that we're not projecting on them our interpretations, our judgments, our misinterpretations.
Yes. You know, walk a mile in your moccasins. It's actually called walk a mile in my shoes. You want to hear it?
Yes, please. You mean a song or something?
Yep. I'm going to sing it for you if you want to hear it.
Yeah, please.
All right. If I could be you, if you could be me for just 1 hour, if we could find a way to get inside each other's mind, if you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes. Now there are people on reservations and in the ghetto, and brother, there, but for the grace of God, go you and I. If I only had the wings of a little angel, don't you know I'd fly to the top of the mountain and then I'd cry. Walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes. Yeah, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. How synchronistically perfect.
Hey, that was an awesome conversation. It's
great.
always a pleasure talking to you. Always. We've done it twice, but it's a pleasure both times. And so
100% of the times.
100% of the time it works. So thanks very much for this conversation there, brother. Keep yourself well. And we're going to talk some more. I don't know how and when yet, but we're going to do some more. All right.
We brother. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you do and being you. Have a wonderful night.
And you too. You're like you and I. We're a little bit. We're on the edges, man. We're not in the bell curve here. We're the outliers, but that's okay. Let's be outliers. All right.
On the edges and